I grew up in this very old house. It was built by pioneers. No one knows when it was exactly built because I've done a lot of research and all I could find that was standing there in 1854. It was made of hand-pressed bricks and the walls inside had plaster. Now, I done a lot of renovations in that house many years ago. I won't walk in that house anymore. I won't even go in the door. I'll tell you why in a minute. And anyway, yeah, it's amazing. When they put the plaster on the walls, they used draft horse tail hair, which they put between the bricks, and they used the plaster to make that adhere to it. The ceiling were lath. Now, what lath is strips of timber that has been cut from the local forest, laid down to make the ceiling, and then plastered up. They'd push it up, and then the plaster would go between each bit of timber, and as it dried, it made a key and locked itself in. So this was very primitive. Under the floor, what held the floor up was old, early paint tins and containers full of concrete. That was the actual floor. So this house was a real pioneer's house that I grew up in. Now, my grandfather was very self-sufficient, old-fashioned style. My grandma never had an electric stove. She never had a refrigerator. She never had a washing machine. She had an old copper pot which she'd boil the clothes. And Mum and Dad and us, we lived in the same house in another kitchen. We had the mod cons, right? And when it rained, this is true, my grandfather would put an umbrella up in the kitchen and catch the water where it ran into something, right? I don't know why he didn't fix it. He should have. He should have done that for Grandma. But anyway, he used to tell me that this was a property of power. And how he knew that is he was from a long, and I am, to an ancestral line of water diviners. We can find water, we can find gold, we can find minerals. And you see on television they do water divining or dowsing, and they actually use wire. Originally you didn't use wire. Wire's too valuable. And then you didn't have wire, so people use willow branches, a forked willow stick. Now, my last name, Wiedenhofer, in ancient German, is a family who have willow trees and farm. That's because we were diviners. They would always call on us to dig wells. I remember him telling me how there was an underground stream, and he showed me when he was teaching me about this, that ran under the property. Now, if you go, the property's still in our family. If you go to the veranda now, which has a concrete floor, underneath that veranda there's a well. Now, that well was covered up before I was born. When I was going to be born, my grandpa sold some land and he covered it all up because they pumped it in, right? Put a pump. Now, I remember when I was a kid, my dad did renovations and I saw the well. And there was a cap on it, and we took it off and we lowered something, and there was still water in it, and you could probably drink it, but anyway, because of this water there was a line of power, right? This is a true story. One day, I think I was about 18, I'd left home. I ran away from home when I was 14. So anyway, and I've survived on my own most of my life. Not through my parents, through things that happened. My parents were always good people. And I was walking along and I started feeling like electricity running through my body. And I shook my head and I blinked. And I looked up and everything was how it was when it was new. I was taken back when all this was built. Over 150 years before, everything, all the doors and all the stables. We had, the heritage horse stables and that, and they were built out of stone with wooden doors, but they were all missing, but now they were all there, nice. All the sheds continued down. Grandpa's dairy, what become his dairy, was still there. there were some people walking around that I didn't know. And I just walked along. But the thing is, it was all in black and white. It wasn't in colour. There was no colour. And I just looked around. I surveyed the scene and I saw things and thought, this is amazing. And it felt very surreal. And then it gradually, colour started coming back in, and I shook my head and I went back to modern times. Now, what sort of made me believe this story was real is I could say stuff to my grandmother that I'd never been told, and she said, yes, that's right. She said the old outside toilet was moved from here to there. The chicken coop was moved to there. How did you know that? And I told her, and she said, the ancestors spoke to you. They wanted you to see something. So that is a true story.